Hi, my name is Priscilla, and today I'm going to talk about the perception of wine quality. But first, a bit of background. Wine is made through the fermentation of grape juice, converting natural sugars into ethanol, the compound responsible for the buzz we feel from consuming alcoholic beverages. The two most well-known types of wine, red and white, differ in that red wines contain color pigments from the grape skin, along with distinctive flavor and aromas. In ancient Egypt, wine was used in ceremonies due to their resemblance with blood, while the Greeks preserved wine for the upper class. The oldest winery known dates back to over 6,000 years ago in ancient Armenia. In the 18th century, corkscrews were invented, and the beginnings of today's global wine trade were sprouted, with France's Bordeaux region on the forefront. In 2017, the global wine market was valued at over $300 billion and is predicted to keep growing. Most wineries do not sell directly to the consumers, but to wholesale distributors who in turn supply retail outlets. This means that the wine produced has to not only appeal to consumers, but be appraised positively by the intermediaries. So what makes a good wine? The variables affecting perception of wine quality and consequently willingness to buy are categorized into two. Extrinsic attributes such as price, packaging, and brand name can be changed without modifying the actual product, while intrinsic attributes such as flavor and aroma are related to the product and processing methods involved. In 1988, a study conducted with over 500 students showed that consumers have an optimum price range in which they are most likely to buy. Products that are too expensive are out of the question, but too low of a pricing made consumers question the quality of a product. However, few studies have been conducted on what affects experts' perception on wine quality. To look into this, an experiment was carried out to evaluate the effect of modifying external and internal variables on wine quality perception. The external attribute chosen was price, while the intrinsic attribute chosen was the amount of oak flavor.
In this research paper written by Lokshin and Rhodes, it was discussed the study design, together with the process in preparing wine samples for tasting, the way to create a survey for consumer research, and the statistical analysis used. The extrinsic factor chosen was price, as this is easy to adjust by the producer and is a common parameter of interest. The intrinsic factor was the amount of oak flavor in the wine. This was chosen because adding oak flavor to the wine can be easily manipulated, and this flavor is considered as a typical feature in Chardonnay wine. In this research, the Chardonnay grapes were harvested at the Ohio Agricultural Research and Development Center. Oaked wines were prepared by adding 5.3 grams per liter of chipped Ohio oak barrel staves. After 10 weeks of further storage, oak chips were removed to allow blending process. Blending is when the oaked wine is mixed with the unoaked wine to achieve for a unique flavor of the final product. 11 blends were achieved in this research based on 10% intervals, but only 4 of them were selected to the actual tasting by consumers. The survey was to uncover subjects' evaluation of wines based on perceived quality, color, and aroma of the samples. Also, demographic information like income, age, gender, etc. should be obtained from each consumer. Moreover, pre-experience with wine tasting will be based on consumer self-evaluation. The survey was first tested on commercial winemakers and then to wine wholesalers. After all these, the survey was tested on a group of final consumers to confirm the usability. 200 consumers were invited to the wine tasting event, and 98 wholesalers were invited to collaborate. All consumers and wholesalers were given the same questionnaire to complete. After tasting the 4 wines with 3 prices labeled on bottles, the wholesalers were asked to predict consumers' responses in addition. When analyzing the data, multiple regression technique was used to predict the value of perceived quality based on the value of other independent variables. The first equations used labeled price, oak levels, and the interaction between the two as independent variables. As no interaction was found between price and oak levels, second equations included demographic information as a set of independent variables, and no significant proportion of variance was explained.
The authors concluded the whole study and made future implications on this preliminary research. It has shown that the response of consumers to increasing price was positive. It is somewhat surprising that consumers used price so strongly when they were able to taste and evaluate the wines before making quality judgments. While for expert wine tasters, wholesale wine salespeople did not use price but did use the intrinsic taste of the wines, which is oak level, to make their quality judgments. Also, experts were unable to accurately predict consumer responses. It does seem from the shape of the resulting regression equations that experts use their own preferences as surrogates for consumer responses. So if particularly wines are aimed at the target of average wine drinkers, it is better to test all parameters on this target rather than assume experts at the winery or at the wholesale level can be accurately predict consumer responses. On a theoretical level, more research is necessary to understand the various extrinsic factors, the label, the brand, the region of origin, and even shelf position, and the interactions among them in consumer quality judgments. Also, more research is necessary to consider more specifically how experts make judgments and what causes some experts to be able to divorce their own opinions from the understanding of consumer opinions. On a practical level, more wineries should test all aspects of their wines on the intended audience before going to the expense of marketing them improperly. It shouldn't be assumed that raising the price will increase consumer acceptance. A $15 bottle of wine will be likely perceived better than a $5 bottle of wine by consumers, while there may not be as many consumers willing to purchase the more expensive bottle. Also, wineries need to consider the needs of their customers when designing the wines they make. It has been observed that the average consumer does not have a particular preference for oak level. Wine experts may be overestimating the amount of barrel aging necessary to make marketable wines. It is also advisable to discuss the target consumer groups and their preferences with individual wholesale representatives, who might have particular knowledge of their market areas. Local wholesalers should participate in the matching of wine style, price, packaging, etc. with the intended audience. On the other hand, direct research with specific consumers seems to be more important. Blind allegiance to marketing experts' opinions. This is the end of our presentation. Thanks for watching. Do you have any questions?